Welcome back to the podcast. This is GatorEX, and this is also Nerds. Welcome. Oh.
I'm just leaving that. I'm leaving that as the intro.
No,
Yes,
are you serious?
I could. It was pretty decent. But anyway, hey, welcome back to the GatorEX podcast. My name is Rex, the host of this podcast. It happens every 2 weeks. I will have a rotating cast for each podcast. Today, I'm joined again by Nerds from episode 1, and things look a little fancier nowadays because I actually brought myself to make a decent backdrop for the video version of this. We got names for each person, which I had to do for the last episode because we had 3 people on, but now this just works out better because I don't even think if people really even knew your name from the first episode or if they just weren't able to hear it. I think I put it in the description, but now it's very clear. Rex, Nerds. How's it going, guys? How are you?
I am ready.
Ready like Freddy. I was not ready, so I guess that starts the behind the scenes stuff. So I had said, hey, let's hop in a call like maybe 6 or 7 o'clock, right? And so it's 5 o'clock, and I said, you know what, I got an hour, let me just lay down and close my eyes. And then I didn't wake up until like 7, which thankfully it was 7 o'clock, and not even later than that. I've been having times where, okay, I have the bad habit of going to sleep at like 1 or 2 o'clock in the morning, sometimes. And so it'll be the point, it'll get to a point where it's like, where it's like 12 o'clock. And I'm like, well, I could stay up for another hour or another 2 hours. And then I say, you know what, I'm a little tired, but I'm not ready to go to sleep. Let me just close my eyes for a little. Which that...
Yeah.
No, yeah, that's...
For me, that happened to me when I was a youth counselor for a summer. They tell you, like, get as much rest as you can because you got to be ready and up to deal with, like, whatever age kids you're going to be working with. And when I worked with, like, 3rd and 4th graders, they told us, as staff members and as counselors, like, you guys got to take advantage of, like, quiet time. Quiet time was like a time where the kids actually just have to lay down or sit down and just be quiet. And I took advantage of that because, I'm just sitting in a yurt or a cabin going, all right, nap time.
Damn, that must be decent, or it must be pretty nice. Like, what time would you have to wake up for that? Like, each morning?
So counselors actually had to get up pretty early. It was a matter of breakfast was at like 8:15. So counselors had to get up early for what was called counselor coffee and just basically have a meeting just to talk about the day, the topics that we're going to be talking about with the kids. And it just overall it was pretty cool. The only thing that I did, because I don't drink coffee, was I made what I called chocolate sludge in the bottom of like a foam cup, and people were just asking me like why there was like such gritty stuff in my teeth. I'm like, oh, it's sludge.
Wait, so what was it? Was it like chocolate? Was it like chocolate syrup or?
So it was hot cocoa mix, so like the powder. And so what I would do was I'd add a little water and then add a bunch of honey and then just keep adding hot chocolate powder until it reaches the consistency of just goo or slime or just like like just a syrupy type consistency to where like if you put it in your mouth, like you'd feel it on your teeth.
So basically just like, no, that's basically just hot chocolate with a lot of honey added.
It was both good and disgusting at the same time.
I could imagine that. But yeah, no, I can't do coffee. I don't know, the smell of it is pretty good, and whenever it's being made anywhere and I smell it, sometimes I'll be like, okay, maybe I'll give it a try again this time, and I just can't drink it. I don't like it.
Yeah, that's me too. I cannot stand the taste of coffee. I've tried to drink it. The only way how you'd get me to drink coffee is through like a frappuccino or ice cream. But if you try to get me to drink it like straight or with creamer, I just can't do it. Love the smell, and it smells awesome, but I just can't drink it.
Yeah. Mocha, like, is mocha that's like coffee, right? Or something
Well, it's coffee and hot chocolate together.
Okay. Because, like at Starbucks, right? Obviously, I don't drink the coffee from Starbucks, but I really like the chocolate chip frappuccino because that has no coffee in it. And for one thing, whenever I'm with someone and I get that, they're like, I thought you didn't like coffee. And I say, this doesn't have any coffee in it. Although, like, some locations, they'll make it with mocha, and it just really doesn't taste right.
You want to know a secret?
What's up?
So when I worked in a coffee shop during the summer, they use kind of similar stuff to what Starbucks uses. And the whole secret of some of the drinks or some of the frappuccinos that get made is they don't use like every single fresh ingredient possible to make it a super awesome quality. They actually use like these big bags of powder and use that.
Well,
And there's different like flavors. You've got the mocha powder, you've got the chai tea powder, matcha powder, vanilla powder, cocoa powder. Yeah, it's kind of white chocolate powder as well.
huh? Well, I mean, like, it is fat. It's not like a premium drink or anything. So I guess I don't know. I'm kind of fine with that. I mean, I like the end product at least.
Yeah,
So
I
so
totally get you.
maybe that is something I should like stop. Get well, because I feel like it's in between. Like, well, it's slightly better than getting like a milkshake, I guess, if at all. I'm actually really curious. I should probably just look at the nutrition facts because a lot more of it is a lot more of the frappuccino is ice, and it's not like as thick as a milkshake can get.
It's pretty much ice, it's cream or milk, and it is the powder that they put in. Now you can get the more, I guess, fresh, and I put that into quotes because depends on like what you consider fresh. They'll actually dump like fresh coffee into the blender with the milk and with the ice, and then add in some powder to add in like I guess thickness to it.
Yeah, like legitimately, that's the only thing I would get from Starbucks. Like that and of course the food. I typically do get like Starbucks gift cards, with Christmas because that's just kind of like a basic default thing. So it's like, oh yeah, everyone has something they like from Starbucks. Not tempted to get it, but especially like well at work, like at one of the locations, they just built a Starbucks like right next to it. So it's like, and I can see it as I exit and enter. So it's gonna be a thing of like, well, it's gonna be a decent drive home. Should I get some Starbucks? And that's exactly why they do. That's why they put it everywhere.
Well, yeah, it's the McDonald's of the coffee world.
But apparently McDonald's is like popular coffee.
I've got an opinion, but like, I mean, I've heard mixed things about McDonald's coffee to where it's gone from people talking about it where it's, oh, it tastes awesome. Some people go, no, it tastes like dirt. Some people say it tastes burnt. I'm like, well, I'm just not gonna drink it.
It's awesome burnt dirt. Just combine all the like average out the reviews. Although I'm not
That
a
was
coffee
good.
I'm not a coffee connoisseur, so I couldn't. Although with McDonald's, with the whole McCafe, that does remind me. So this episode is going to be going up March 1st, and so that means it's March season, and that means it's time for Shamrock Shakes.
Oh, I actually don't like Shamrock Shakes.
Okay, recently I haven't been liking them, I guess, but well, okay, for me the Shamrock Shake, I always get it like for one thing, because my birthday's in like early March, so I always just get a Shamrock Shake on my birthday because it's like, yeah, tradition, yeah, that's cool, and I like them, but it seems like the quality has been dipping year after year, which I wouldn't doubt that.
Well, yeah, because that's kind of normal depending on depending on what region you're in, because some areas it's actually better quality because people actually care about the quality and not just the money. But like for things for me where it's closer to home, the quality of certain things are pretty abysmal.
I've got my connections at McDonald's. I should try to like just be like, hey, I'm gonna come in. I'm gonna order a Shamrock Shake. Make it like really really nice for me, please, because I don't need a whole lot of McDonald's. I think so far with McDonald's currently, I think I still only like the breakfast, and again the Shamrock Shake's just like a once a year kind of thing, and the breakfast I think is still pretty decent, which at the very least you can get breakfast all day.
I think it's yeah. I think you're right. It's like the whole seasonal thing. I mean, the one thing that I couldn't get over, and I'm bringing it back to Starbucks, was their terrible, awful, and I will hold this to a very high standard. That awful unicorn frappuccino.
The
That thing was disgusting.
like the gimmick to it was that it was like sweet and sour, huh?
I tried it and it was just disgusting. I'm like, it's supposed to be a frappuccino. It's supposed to be sweet. It's supposed to taste like some sort of coffee, and I'm just tasting something that was just absolute, just garbage. It's
Hold
like
on.
a toddler. For me, it was like a toddler ate a bunch of Play-Doh and crayons and then threw it up into a cup. Like that's basically to me what it was.
Yeah, it looked like that. I think I remember it just being decent. But the cool thing is, well, not cool thing, but so the Target at at the mall around here, or not, wait, the Target at the mall, no shoot, the Starbucks at the mall around here, they also kind of hopped on the trend, but they were making their own kind of proprietary, fancy looking drinks. Like they drew them on the chalk, like on the chalkboard there, and they were saying, oh yeah, these are our, these are other fancy things that you could order. And but they weren't necessarily at every Starbucks. It was just this one location trying to do it and trying to make it cool. So they ended up having like a dragon frappuccino, a phoenix frappuccino, and what was the other one? It was a dragon and a phoenix, or they had the standard unicorn, and then they're like, oh, but also try the dragon and the phoenix.
That was a thing.
Yeah, but it was only at like this one location because I know this one location likes to experiment with what they make, and I guess they're allowed to. But I think also there was like some sort of special frappuccino they were pushing with Pokemon Go when that was like
Oh, yeah, yeah. I mean, that was also a place that's actually near my house. Really, really good poke bar. Basically, you can get poke there, which is actually really good. But it was along the trend of Pokemon Go. Like the lettering of it was to do Pokemon Go, and it was one of those little, I guess, item checkpoints or Poke stops. That's what it was.
I've never had poke because it's raw fish with like sauce and stuff, huh?
Yeah, but it's really interesting because normally, like, I can't really down raw fish straight up like normally. Normally, yeah, I'm gonna use that word. Normally, people can.
Yes.
For me, it's just like it's raw, and I can't get my mind to wrap around that. Like, oh yeah, it's raw, it's edible. No, it's like for me, I was raised in like it's raw, it needs to be cooked.
Well, like with sushi for one thing, because well, as much as a weeaboo as I am, I'm not a huge sushi fan. I think it's just okay at best.
Well, I mean, it's for a lot of people, it's a lot of an acquired taste, I guess. I
Yeah,
mean,
that's it.
my people tried to get me to try, their horizons of sushi, and I just could not eat a lot of it. I mean, I could choke down some stuff that was raw. There's some stuff that I do like calamari. That's delicious.
Oh yeah,
California rolls, but for me, that's technically not really sushi if you really think about it.
yeah.
Unless I mean, it does involve like crab, but a lot of times people put like artificial or like imitation crab in there. I mean, for me, if I'm gonna have sushi, I'm gonna have like the legit thing, not something that's fake.
Hmm. Yeah, I mean, California rolls and tuna rolls, I do kind of like, but I can't have it by itself. It feels small, and not the whole thing. And like, oh, I need big food or this and that. But it's again, an acquired taste, and I guess an acquired attitude in a way to eat it. Some
Are you like a wasabi guy?
No, I do no. No, no. I've never tried it at all. Just because
Really?
no, of course, it being served along with other Japanese, like with Japanese food, I'll just like smell it a little, and that's enough to just make me to say like, no, I don't want to put this in my mouth. But I mean, it's not
Your
terrible.
senses do not betray you.
I mean, I don't doubt it's like terrible. That one's like a definite acquired taste, but I just have like I have no real desire to try it out.
Well, wasabi, for the most part, is just it's kind of flavorless, but there is flavor to it. But mostly, it is extremely spicy.
It's like the mustard kind of spicy, right?
I'd say a little bit more.
But like, well, obviously, like just more intense with that.
Well, I mean, because for what people do with it is they tell you just put only a little bit, like a small little tiny dollop of it on your sushi. Meaning, like if it can fit on the tip of your finger, that should be enough.
I don't know. I don't really get that. That's like the whole thing with Vegemite. It's like, oh yeah, just put a little bit on your toast or whatever.
Yeah, I've actually tried Vegemite years ago when I was a kid. Apparently, it's supposed to be extremely good for you because it's got just all this nutrients and good stuff that's supposed to be really great for just your digestive system and your body in general. But for a lot of people who've never tried it, it's just absolutely disgusting.
I don't know. Like it's a thing where like the reputation precedes it, and so I just have like no real desire to try it out. Okay, with Vegemite, like you said, it's got those nutrients in it. But if it's something else where it's like it doesn't really taste that good, or it's an acquired taste, or it's the thing of like, oh yeah, just put a little on it. You wonder how people started eating it in the first place.
Yeah, I think I don't know. I mean, it's kind of like with if you kind of think of like the history of some things that were created, like just cooking wise. It's my new Hobbit that I'm creating, cooking wise. uh, but
Oh
yeah,
god. Okay, I just got that. I was trying to wait. What? It's new.
I mean, if you look at like molasses, all it is just a bunch of reduced down, cooked up, burnt sugar. That's all it is. And then you look at Vegemite. I mean, it's kind of the same color, but it's a spread. I mean, I think maybe somebody just burnt up a bunch of vegetables and just like blended them up and went, you know what? You could put this on toast.
I mean, people experiment and stuff with food, so it's kind of like eventually we should have figured most everything out. And I mean, for the most part, I think we're at the point where all food has just kind of been discovered or created. I guess the big innovations are like fusion food now, or even fusion foods. That's
I don't know. I've come up with some pretty interesting combinations.
oh yeah, because okay, for one thing, right, with guys, especially teenage guys, right, we eat a bunch. We just eat whatever, because
Yeah,
that's how
whatever's on the table in your
exactly.
mouth.
That's just how like the puberty works. Or
Oh, is that a piece of tablecloth?
that's checkered. Or like that scene in have you ever seen the movie 17 again?
17 again. Oh, yes, I have.
Yeah. Like it reminds me of that scene where he's like just suddenly, 17 again, and he's like, "What are you eating?" And he's like, "I don't know. I just know I'm hungry all the time."
I love
it's
that scene.
exactly.
That's so accurate scene.
Yes, because it's exactly that. Realistically, I'm trying to think if I like mixed anything that much. So, I mean, I just did weird things like, okay, for one, the big chocolate muffins from Costco.
Yes.
All right, so I got one of those, and I had made some oatmeal also. But first, I kind of like cut out the muffin into like a bowl, and I put the oatmeal in the muffin bowl. I'm like, this is genius.
I did that same thing, except it was with ice cream in a blender. Just basically made blueberry ice cream, but I mean, you got chunks of muffin in there, and
Ooh,
it
dang.
just made it amazing.
That actually, okay, so because for the most part, it's kind of like the same logic, I guess, as like cookie dough ice cream or something. But you're just throwing like the muffin.
I annihilated cookie dough ice cream when I was a kid.
Yeah, I used to
I
like.
destroyed containers of that. Like people said, just put a few scoops into a bowl, and then when no one was home, I'd go into the freezer and just grab the biggest spoon we had, just go blah, blah, went to town.
Exactly. I haven't had cookie dough in so long, or cookie dough ice cream.
I was gonna say, you haven't had cookie dough in so long.
Yeah, no, just take. Oh, that too, of course, as a kid, just like they're the little Toll House cookies. It's like no one's gonna notice a square missing.
I used to do that with like fundraiser cookie dough that I used to
Ooh.
have to sell as a kid when I was like, I think it was like in elementary school. They're like, oh yeah, you got to sell cookie dough and you got to make sure that you're raising money for the little league. And I'm going, I just want the cookie dough.
It's like, well, it's here. I have access to it. And again, it's the logic of like no one's gonna miss this much.
Yeah, and the thing is like you got like no knowledge of marketing when you're a little kid in little league. You're just like being told by your parents, all right, we got to make sure that we take people's money and then we give this cookie dough to people. And all I heard was, you have cookie dough and you have free access to it.
Although then comes like the thing of like when you're adult, you have some money, and then you can just buy whatever basically.
That's dangerous.
Yes, yes. I think I don't even know. Did I ever go through a phase where it's just like, shoot, I'm gonna buy this and this,
I'll
and
answer that question for you. Yes, you did.
yeah, yeah, obviously. Well, for one thing, like, okay, when Toys R Us was still around, right?
Yes.
And when I eventually got my when I had my car, I'm like, and just running errands, it's like, hey, I'm near the Toys R Us, let me just stop in. Or well, with like Pokemon would have events at the Toys R Us, and so it's like, oh yeah, there's this exclusive card. It's not okay. It wasn't even a special card. It was just a regular card from the set with a Toys R Us stamp on it. But it's like, hey, this is going on. And I'm like, you know what? I could pop in and get that.
You know, Toys
And
R Us actually used to sell like handheld video games.
yeah, like or like just video games in general, or
No, it was primarily it was the Game Boy Advanced and the Game Boy Advanced SP. And it was just because it was much cheaper to get it at Toys R Us than to get it at like Best Buy or to get it at like a game store. Yeah, it was only like maybe $10-$20 cheaper at the time.
yeah. Well, even that is like a great deal. I remember though, like with okay, for Lego specifically, Toys R Us would always mark them up like a few bucks. I'm not entirely. I'm actually curious to why that is, but yeah, no, the video games. That's where I bought a bunch of video games when I was like a kid. Well, the first video game like I ever bought really that I owned myself was for the Game Boy Color, and it was Flintstones Burger Time.
Oh my
I
gosh.
think that was it. It was something like that. Let me look.
That's so old.
Yes, exactly. And it was for the Game Boy. Well, because originally, like, I didn't have my own Game Boy, but my cousin had one that he let me borrow. And along with that, one of the games that he let me borrow was Pokemon Blue, which got me started for Pokemon in general. Which I mean, that's cool. I think I've mentioned this story some other time, but that's basically it. But he would continuously just let me borrow his Game Boy until eventually he's like, "Oh, you can just have it." I remember, I would just have this Game Boy that I would borrow, and then eventually I was able to get my own game for it, and that was the first game I ever got. We went to Toys R Us. It's like, okay, go ahead, pick out one game, and that's the game I pick out. And
One of the first handheld games that I remember playing for the very first time, and it's so obvious because I think this is like for everybody who are pretty much either like my age or your age or whoever. I mean, for me, it was Pokemon. It was on like the Game Boy. That's pretty much what my cousin had was the Game Boy, not Game Boy Advance or Game Boy Color. It was just the Game Boy. After that, I played the side scroller like Lion King game on the Game Boy Color.
oh, nice. I think technically, by the time I had like 3 other Game Boy Color games, that's when my cousin's like, okay, you can also have, you can just have the Game Boy and the Game Boy Color. So then, of course, after my time with my other games, like just pop in Pokemon Blue, and it's like, all right, this is what we doing today, and then basically forever until like get a few more games, or until he also like another cousin actually ended up giving me his copy of Pokemon Gold, or no, Pokemon Silver first, which,
Ooh,
oh gosh,
over.
I know I love Pokemon Silver, and I love Pokemon Gold and Silver. Well, for one thing, I went through that terrible phase of like, oh boy, I got a bunch of these games and I don't play them anymore, and I want money for a new game.
It's back when the creators of the Pokemon games were being very strategic about making money, where it's like, oh, if you want to have
Mhm.
these other Pokemon in your collection in your game, you got to get the other game. And if you want those other Pokemon, you got to get this other game.
I know. Okay, that's the cool thing, or funny thing about Pokemon. Like the games are the same. It's just the same game. Each version is the same. Just with just they got a different, or the story's straight up the same. Just at the very end, it's a little different. Or no, not even in yeah, not even until like Gold and Silver did they start doing the story a little different. Because with Red and Blue, it was just the same game, just with like different like exclusive Pokemon and stuff. Yeah, Game Freak's been able to get away with selling the same game twice. And I just always find that, or no, not even twice, 3 times sometimes. And the funny thing is, like, yeah, sometimes it's grouped differently. Well, with Let's Go Pikachu and Eevee recently, that was the recent game on the Switch. On the eShop, like on the online store, they're they're counted as different games. So I was just checking the like the top selling games, and Let's Go Eevee was like number 6, and then Let's Go Pikachu was like number 10, but they're the same game. I don't. Yeah, no one is really like complaining about it too. Everyone just lets them get away with it. Which
Well, it's because like you got the kind of thought of, well, what can one person do with this one entire company by calling them out on something that they probably already know is something that's repeated, and they already got away with selling so much of it.
it sounds funny though, saying like, oh yeah, they get away with it. As
Well,
if they're committing a
they
crime.
are.
Well, it's not a crime, but it's like it's not necessarily like a shady business tactic, but it's I don't, how would you say that? That's
You worded it exactly right. It's
sh-
shady business.
I wouldn't say it's shady. Like, okay, for one thing, obviously the guys that they have it as is that oh yeah, it's to promote like playing with each other. You're trading Pokemon with other friends, which that was like the big draw to Pokemon. Really, that kind of set it apart from like other monster collecting video games. Is the like the multiplayer aspect?
Well, the matter of the whole thing is just this is, hey, you want to pay us like a small sum of money for this one game, and maybe if you want, you can buy the same thing with one extra feature for extra money.
At least we don't have Pokemon DLC and loot boxes. Oh wait, no, there is DLC in Pokemon. Dang it! In not the main series games, in the fighting game.
And technically, the loot boxes that you find are just whatever random items you find throughout the game.
No, the loot boxes are real life. They're the trading card game. That's it.
I
That's it.
didn't think of that. That's actually really clever.
That's it. We've done it. That's why Pokemon's the most successful franchise. So you buy the same game twice, and they sell packs of card game or packs. They sell physical loot boxes.
Subscribe to our loot box. $100 a month to get every single rare Pokemon at a chance of 1 in 1,000.
Oh gosh.
Are
Well,
you
like,
willing to take the risk? Are you
well,
willing to gamble all your parents' finances to get one rare Pokemon card?
yeah. Well, for one thing, like, did you ever like, the distribution Pokemon, right? Say like the really rare ones. Well, okay, goes back to Toys R Us. Do you know Darkrai, right?
Yes.
Yeah. So Darkrai you can't catch in the game. You need to go to for one thing, I got my Darkrai from Toys R Us because I remember seeing it advertised. It's like, oh, Pokemon, distribution for the legendary Pokemon Darkrai this Saturday at Toys R Us. And so I convinced my dad. It's like, Dad, can you bring me to Toys R Us this day? And
They
so
did the same thing with the different forms of Deoxys. Like, oh, this week at Toys R Us,
yep.
come by and you'll get Deoxys in his attack form. Whoa!
Sunday, 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 come down to Toys R Us and get Deoxys attack form. Only available for a limited time.
That's actually pretty close to what the commercial was.
Probably. Oh, shoot, I should try to find those sometime. So obviously, that practice continues, and okay, it's not like as bad, I'd say. Okay, so for one thing, right, nowadays there are distribution cards, and or like just distributions done online. I remember in 2016 for the 20th anniversary, they did this thing where it's like, oh yeah, a different legendary Pokemon every month. To celebrate, Pokemon 20th anniversary. And so for some of them, it was like, oh yeah, this one you can just get over Wi-Fi. So you could just sit in your home and download it, basically, as long as you do it during this month. But other ones, it's like, oh yeah, you gotta physically go to a GameStop and ask for a little card that has the code for the Pokemon.
Yeah, I just don't like the lengths that they're having people go to just to get something that's, I guess, kind of cool.
Yeah. I mean, I guess one way to view it is like it really does make them like rare Pokemon, or it kind of brings a sense of community in a way, because for one thing, it could be like you could trade with your friend if your friend has like two Mews because he went to like two different distributions for well, not like at the same thing, but like I have a bunch of Mews because I went to this distribution in like 2012 and then this other one in like 2016 and
That's
so
kind of
on.
like when like Skyrim kind of first came out.
I
Like at every single GameStop when it first came out, there was like a countdown to midnight on the day it came out, and there were people standing in the store dressed in like armor and cosplay gear and just having a party. But I'm just kind of thinking about it, going, "What if I want to buy a different game? This place is going to be way too crowded."
They're all going to be here for one thing. I'm going to be getting not that thing. And how many? I don't. The thing is, I don't know how many distribution Pokemon there are. Okay. Oh no, I remember. All right. For one thing, I remember the worst one. So there's this one Pokemon called Hoopa, and for a while, the only like I think there have been more distributions, but the main first distribution for it was at McDonald's. It's a thing of like, yep, got to physically walk into a McDonald's to get this Pokemon. It's like yippee dee.
We've been talking about everything except for we've been talking about like every other topic except for like what we talked about talking about.
I know. Well, because I'm like, yeah, set this topic, and then I started off with the oh yeah, no, I fell asleep, and then it just starts a rabbit hole. Which at the very least, like, I like something like that. In that, okay, I'll say I think this episode is turning out much better than like the last one, right? Because I think we've just gotten a little better at talking in a way.
And there's a risk factor, which was my internet.
Exactly. Stakes are high. But I mean, that's for one thing, I think it comes down to like being able to have a good. Well, for one thing, I think we've got a good dynamic because I've been in like other types of podcast things. Some that never saw the light.
Your dream girl.
What? No, that was last. I mean, in like different ones with like other people, with like internet buddies or people that I just met online, or someone I know in real life, but then we're friends with other people online. Some of those didn't end up going anywhere. Some of those some of those got to like 2 episodes and then stopped and then had to get rebooted without me. Because I chose not to. And then another one just never really saw the light of day. They were good. They were pretty fine, but I feel like, it's obviously been different because I think it does come down to like having a decent dynamic with the person you're talking about or the people you're talking about, because you could definitely have something and say like, oh yeah, this topic that we're talking about. And okay, for one thing, I remember back with when I mostly talked about Yu-Gi-Oh, that was always kind of the constant in a way, because it's like, oh yeah, we're real into Yu-Gi-Oh, so let's talk about the most recent ban list. I mean, it turned out all right, but it's like I had said, oh yeah, let's talk about YouTube, and I'm gonna start off with basic state of the channel stuff, and then we can talk about like creators that we like. But then we show up and we just start talking about chocolate sludge and Pokemon.
You actually brought up Yu-Gi-Oh, and it was really funny because I actually played Yu-Gi-Oh for the very first time in such a long span of years. It was really interesting because I was playing with a really good friend of mine, and I was as well as her friend, who I don't even know, but he was trying to like tell us like, oh, you could do. He was trying to tell me like, oh, you could do this, you could do this. I'm playing by the rules that I remember from when I was a little kid.
Yeah, I'm not super familiar with a huge bunch of Yu-Gi-Oh history. I think I started playing in like 2012 or something like that, or 2011, or no, 2012, yeah. But
yeah, I played Yu-Gi-Oh when I was like a little kid, so back in like 2000, I want to say like 2003, 2004.
yeah, that was I think that was about like the height of like the original kind of series.
Yeah, back when it was cool.
Yeah. Well, hey,
People are actually gonna hate me if I actually say it. If I say that.
No, Yu-Gi-Oh's cool now, man. We got cards with paragraphs as the effect. We got was it just decks that just are they're so fun because they let you do whatever you want and they let your opponent do nothing. What are you talking about, man? Yu-Gi-Oh is great, right?
Yeah, it's kind of like I watched a video on a guy who used Exodia and he won a battle in one turn.
Yep. Because that's how it is. Yeah.
He just basically took
everything out of his hand, kept playing cards that allowed him to discard and draw cards, and
Mhm.
all of a sudden, like, I place every single piece of Exodia on the field. I win.
Yeah. Or I don't know if you've seen that video. It's like a popular video. It's called "The Most Serious Yu-Gi-Oh Duelist Ever." Well, it's just this guy kind of not over exaggerating in a way, but he's basically using this strategy where there's this card called Blasting the Ruins, and I believe the effect was that it deals the damage that it deals scales up depending on how many cards are in your graveyard. So the whole point of the deck is to like draw through your entire deck and just set 3 Blasting the Ruins, and then activate them all at the same time, and then just get rid of your opponent in one turn.
Interesting.
Yeah, which I don't know how viable that is anymore. Oh,
I mean, I
but
remember when Jar of Greed was like the card to have.
ye draw 2.
It's
Although
like,
there are
I
other
have the
cards.
Jar of Greed. Draw 2 cards. Another Jar of Greed. More cards. Another Jar of Greed. I got my whole deck in my hand. You're gonna lose.
There is a obviously like Yu-Gi-Oh's gotten crazy. Different. It's very different now. There are Synchro Monster. Well, even Synchro Monster are the oldest. We got Synchro Monsters. We got Xyz Monsters. Got Pendulum Monsters. Got Link Monsters. And then I'm just saying this, and you're like, I
Lunk monsters.
Lunk Monsters. But it's gotten to the point where they kind of have to. They have a separate format of Yu-Gi-Oh called Speed Duels. And have you played the app game, the Yu-Gi-Oh Duel Links?
No, but I've played a I think it was a oh wait, I actually have it right here. It's a Game Boy Advance game or a Game Boy game in general.
Yeep. But Duel Links, right? It's pretty simplified. In that you can only have like 3 monsters and 3 spells on the field at the same time. Your deck is like 20 cards. Each person only has 4,000 life points. So, and that was pretty popular because that app game has been around for a while, and it's good because it's like a different format than regular Yu-Gi-Oh. So what they're doing is they're basically bringing that to real life, and there's a format called Speed Duels where you can only use cards that are marked with a special Speed Duel stamp. And so far, there aren't a whole lot of cards in this format, and it's at the point where the best deck currently, well, not the best deck, but pretty much one of the best decks, the one that I'm using, is Blue Eyes, and it's not even like fancy Blue Eyes. It's just Blue Eyes White Dragon is just very strong, just because it's a big monster.
So how's Mokuba Kaiba?
He's fine. Let's get back to the discussion at hand. Let's not talk about Mokuba.
I just love how he sounded in the show. He sounded like a teenager who like smoked cigarettes at 10 at one point.
I don't remember the voice actor's name, but it was the same guy who voiced Brock in Pokemon.
Oh my gosh, that's hilarious.
But it's just like you go from like Brock, who's like this pretty nice guy, and he's like he takes care of people, and then you go to Kylo, who's just like steals cards, beats up grandpas.
That's kind of like the guy who voiced some of the characters for Animaniacs and the shows related to it. The guy was the voice of, I think it was Yakko.
Oh yeah, Rob Paulson.
Yeah,
Okay, yeah, that's it.
yeah, Rob Paulson. Yeah, he was also the. He's actually one of my favorite voice actors, just because he also voiced Pinky from Pinky and the Brain, and for those people who don't really know Animaniacs or Pinky and the Brain, he also voiced Carl Weezer from Jimmy Neutron.
I always like that. Oh, and he voiced oh yeah, Ninja Turtles too. He
Yeah,
was like
he did Leonardo.
yeah, or no,
No, it was Donatello.
yeah, Donatello in the newer series, and then Raphael in the older series. I think it was.
Yeah, I think so. I think you're right.
Like with voice actors, one thing is kind of neat in like how they've just voiced different characters from different things, and whenever you're able to make the connection between it, it's like, oh shoot, he was this guy, or they were also them.
Well, it's kind of like the woman who right now is still a voice actor, and she voices like Timmy Turner in The Fairly Odd Parents, and so many other characters within like Nickelodeon and other areas.
Yeah, just everything. Tara Strong.
Yeah,
She's also Raven in Teen Titans. Shoot, Bubbles from Powerpuff Girls. I'm gonna blank. There's just a bunch more.
there's a ton. She's voiced, I think, if not hundreds of characters, then it's just tens of characters.
Oh yeah, not let's not forget the most important Twilight Sparkle from My Little Pony: Friendship is Magic.
Oh my gosh.
But basically, just every like kind of cutesy girl character, and then like some young boy characters also. So, oh, also the older brother from Foster's Home for Imaginary Friends. It's just deeper voiced.
Who was the older brother?
You remember the? I don't know what his name. All right, but he was basically just Sid from Toy Story. Just
Okay.
yeah, and that was just a deeper voiced Timmy Turner, pretty much. One voice actor I think is pretty cool is Mike Pollock, who he's pretty much Dr. Eggman from basically everything nowadays, ever since like 2003. But it's also just kind of neat hearing his voice. He also did a lot of the other 4 Kids dubs, like the Kirby Right Back at You. Oh, I'm trying to think. Just you know, a bunch of other things. It's a pretty recognizable voice, I think.
The few people who I actually want to give like a ton of like attention to it, because I was a huge fan of these shows. What was the one show? Oh, Xiaolin Showdown. That's what it was.
Oh yeah.
For me, it was just I really enjoyed the show because it was just so story driven.
Yeah, like with the continuous story, and then for one thing, I think is also well, the one thing I liked, I would always think of like, oh yeah, the Shengon Wu things. I would always just love thinking like, oh man, which one's the best, or which one would I have if I could have any of those.
You want to know the one voice actor we actually talked about her? Voiced one of the main characters, the little guy, the little bald yellow boy, Omi.
Yeah,
Sarah Strong.
yeah.
If
'Cause
you actually listen to Omi's voice, it's like
it's Asian
it's
Timmy
kind of
Turner.
like it's like an Asian Timmy Turner, pretty much.
Oh,
And I
also,
think it's really interesting, like how that show got canceled after so long. But I'm like super duper surprised that like they got away with
oh yeah,
like it is so racist of what they did, but it's so funny.
yeah. A little. It's like, okay, we have this character. He's a little
He's
Asian kid.
yellow.
He's yellow. He's just bright yellow.
And like I'm not racist at all. Like
No,
it's
no, yeah.
it's just I'm surprised that like they got away with it.
Yeah.
Like how can we like make like a little Asian boy and add in like some racist humor?
Yeah. Let's have it.
And
Let's
so
have,
they made him yellow, which I thought was really interesting because then when I thought about it, the girl who was a part of the team later on in the show, she was kind of the same nationality, I guess, but her skin was a different color.
I don't
The
know.
way that
Was
they made her, I don't know.
the
I'm not going to delve too deep into this.
Yeah,
'cause
I mean,
it was just-
and mostly because I don't remember a whole lot of it. I need to rewatch it. Well, at the same time, Jack Spicer was like, he was pale.
yeah, he was gray.
Yeah, no, he was gray.
It's like dead. Yeah, it was like dead man gray, like vampire gray.
Yeah, but that doesn't get away. That doesn't excuse. Oh, the series. You know, like I said, the series ended, but I know for one thing, it came back for a while. Recently, I think in like 2014, and you know, it was basically the same, but they add. Apparently, there's another character that's just like Omi, but just smaller, and he's still yellow. He's still a little yellow kid.
That's funny. Oh my gosh, that's hilarious.
He kept it up. Oh, for one thing, so Tom Kenny, who he voices SpongeBob, among other characters, he was also a voice in that show, and he voiced the Brazilian kid.
Oh,
So it's
what's his name?
Raimundo.
Raimundo.
Yeah, so it's Tom Kenny just doing an accent.
Yeah, it was just like really interesting because like it sounds like such like a try hard accent.
Yeah.
In like my opinion, like I hear it now when I look back on it and I go, it just sounds like a white dude just trying to like
Mhm.
have like a Spanish accent
like trying really hard.
And then on top of that, again, he in Foster's Home for Imaginary Friends, he also voiced Eduardo, so he's a double offender.
Eduardo, the bull,
Yeah, the
the
big
big
purple.
purple bull guy, that guy.
Yeah.
Oh my goodness! It's and the thing is it's like it's not saying that he's like a racist. It's
Oh
not
yeah,
saying
no,
that
no.
he's a horrible person. Like he did a great job of
Oh,
doing those voices.
oh yeah. And I think it's a thing of like it's a cartoon and it's comedy based,
Yeah,
and it's not necessarily like I don't think it's intended to be. Well, for one thing, with voice acting, a lot of it is kind of like well, for back then especially, it was kind of like, well, this person is well known, or they're like a frequent voice actor, so it's basically like, hey, you can do this accent, right, to play a character of this nationality, right? Like, yeah, I
yeah,
can.
yeah, and I think that's where like I'm just kind of getting at is like they actually go in depth. I've actually watched interviews, and they actually do impressions of different people that they know as celebrities. And so like some celebrities that they know who that they know have like a Spanish accent or a Brazilian accent or whatever. Sometimes when people kind of go about it, they kind of fuse different voices together that they know. One big one that a lot of people don't really know nowadays is Jean-Claude Van Damme.
Oh yeah.
He has just the accent he has. Voice actors love to use it for like certain characters that they tried to emulate.
That is an interesting point, though. The whole thing of like, imitating this celebrity or this actor who's this way, or not this way, who's this race. In a way, it is kind of, I guess, like an homage, or they're taking influence to from someone in real life to play this character.
Yeah, and there's actually a YouTuber that does a really great job of like mixing different character voices together and different celebrity voices together. Brian Hall.
Okay,
He actually does a wonderful job.
I think I've heard that name before. I'm not sure. If I've yeah, let me look that up real quick. Oh yes, yeah. I've seen him.
Yeah, Brian Hall is actually really great at doing that because he actually answered a fan's question of like, oh, what were some of the first times to where you did a combination of voices? And somebody said like, do you like, I think it was like Gollum and Elmo, or is it Cookie Monster and Elmo together?
I should watch some of that. I don't know. Like, voice acting is pretty cool, and like in a way, I get, oh well, what we're okay. We're not acting right now, but we're flexing our voices right now. But
I mean, I used to do like a lot of different stuff like with my voice when I was a little kid. Like I loved doing like really goofy voices. One of my favorites that people hate when I do this is like doing that kind of like the Krusty the Clown goofball
oh
mode.
gosh,
Like a prime example was like, "Hi kids," like people. I have friends who actually hate it when I do that because they're like deathly afraid of clowns.
I hate the clown act. I should try and like start working more so on just voices in general, because well, for one thing, right, with people that I know, well, with friends, right, just in situations where like we're just talking, right, or even in this podcast or something, or just playing some video games together, or again, like I said, straight up just talking. Sometimes they'll do just some type of voice, or like you said, you'll do that, or okay, for one thing, I think you've got like a great kind of like a great kind of like positive kind of voice in a way. And so me personally,
Thank you.
oh sure, yeah. So like me personally, it's not necessarily like a jealousy thing, but sometimes I'm like, man, so so and so is pretty good at doing this, or so and so sounds good doing this, and it just kind of drives me to want to improve a little bit. For one thing, I think, well, listening back to episode 1 that we did together, I wasn't exactly at my best in terms of how I was able to talk. And I have a little problem just talking kind of like on the fly without any sort of script. Sometimes. Because I've got a little bit of a stutter in... Okay, no, now that I mentioned it, now that I thought about it, it's just going to happen again. But... But I really do want to kind of improve and work at stuff like that. And for one thing, in terms of like different types of weird voices that I can do, not necessarily impressions, because I don't think I can get the impressions just right for some things, especially with for one thing, Mickey Mouse sounds weird when he tries to say anything other than like typically. Just play Kingdom Hearts. He sounds weird. But
You're so right.
But for one thing, that's one thing that I think I'd like to work on, at least just work on different weird voices, or at least just catalog different things, or different types of weird voices, and at least write them down and then work on them and improve them, and then eventually maybe turn them into their own characters. Not like actual characters in a comic or a show or anything, but just like voices in my back pocket that I can hold on to and use for something.
I mean, for me, like I've just been like doing random stuff with my voice for years. Whether it's just doing vocal training for singing, or it's trying to learn how to do distorted singing, or singing with like grit and rasp, or even just doing like, male grounds, stuff like that. One of my like favorite things that people actually think is kind of cool. People know like the original like Disney film for Aladdin. Everybody always makes an attempt for the Cave of Wonders. I'm apparently able to do that, sort of, I guess.
Nice.
I've never really like seen myself as like really good at doing it. I just know how to do just what's called like the breathy monster voice, and I've been doing that voice since I was like a tiny kid, and just because I was trying to sound cool and scary.
Yeah, should have got you for the live action version.
No.
But yeah, no, that is definitely something I'd like to work on. And well, for one thing, I think this podcast went very well, and so we've been sitting here for a decent amount of time. Speaking of which, so
pretty sure things are gonna get edited out too. So
yeah, I know. There's like mostly the disconnection kind of thing. Let me just
disconnect was like so frustrating. I was trying to figure out what the heck was going on.
As far as questions, we don't have a whole. We got like one, and it's mostly for me, I guess. But the only thing I got was like that says, "You ever gonna make a compilation of GatorEX stream fails?" And to that I say, well, first I gotta stream again. Because okay,
oh, that'd be great.
Most of my stream fails are just the scream. Most of my stream fails are just it crashing, and then me saying, "All right, fine, guys, this isn't working out. I'll see you tomorrow." That's the number one. That's the number one stream fail that I have. But that's mostly it. Anyway, I think we've had a good discussion, and like I said, we came in here we're going to talk about one thing, and then it ended up something else. But hey, that's the fun part. That's why. That's my reasoning behind wanting to do this podcast with actual real life friends, because we can just legit have a good conversation, and then it'll turn out, it'll be funny or insightful depending on how it goes. But anyway, any last thoughts you've got?
I like blueberry muffins.
I don't know. I'm gonna fight you and say the chocolate Costco muffins.
Well, you know what? I'll combine them.
Half and half, or just no, not even half and half. Cut them into quarters, and then make like a checker pattern with them.
You just make you either make a checker muffin or you make a marble muffin.
Ooh. Or better yet, cut one out, cut like one into a bowl, or cut them both into bowls, and then swap the middles.
Or you take the wrapping off of each of them, swap the wrapping, and then that's it.
Yeah, that's it. No one will know.
Nani?
oh gosh. All right, but anyway, again, if you guys have any questions, go ahead and leave them in the comments below. We appreciate the support so much. It's been really cool with episode 1 and episode 2, and now guess what? We got to episode 3, and thank you so much for listening to this much. Next episode, again, is going to be me, Kay, and Bait. But of course, if you have any questions for Nerds, you can go ahead and address him in the comments below. And
ask me questions.
Yes, ask him questions, because ask him something like probably not muffin related, because
What's your favorite color?
I'm questioning whether I should like spoil it and just ask right now. Or no, that's the thing. Find out next time.
Next time on GatorEX Plays. Goku does the Kamehameha wave. What happens next? Only time will tell.
Anyway, thanks for watching. You guys are cool.
Bye!
Adios.